So, in the context of Four Noble Truths, the contact comes in the category of arising of the suffering. So, if we look at the first noble truth of suffering, the suffering is rooted in those phenomena that we perceive, or we take them to be identified with us. So, and this is one of the one of the key component of this arising of suffering is what the Buddha says, that to a bhikkhu called Upavana, he says that, Upavana, I have declared that suffering is dependently reason. And dependent on what is a very short one, dependent on contact. So, in a nutshell, dependent origination, the crux of dependent origination lies in contact. And although we understand dependent origination has got 11 more components, and why the Buddha is saying it's all due to contact, that sounds like a bit oversimplification, or that is something quite may sound bit mystical, but I think that we need to understand the links of dependent origination not as a long chain of events that follow one after another, but rather those things that appear, those arise simultaneously. So, for example, we can have let's say millions of raindrops falling at the same time. Yeah, so those sort of things can happen at the same time, and in the same manner, when the light turns on, there will be billions and trillions of photons that will arise simultaneously. So they do not have to follow one after another. In the same manner, all these the origination of the phenomena, they do not have to come one after another. And this is precisely how the term praticca samutpada means. It means that those things arise simultaneously. Samutpada means arising concurrently, yeah, and praticca means dependent on with some causing condition. So what this praticca samutpada is saying, that in contrast to those sort of let's say natural phenomena where they are completely uncorrelated, they do not depend on each other, like the photons that bounce from a lamp into our retinas, they are not correlated, they are not dependent on each other. Each photon does not depend on another. So that is a natural phenomena that is found in the physics. But the phenomena of our mind, what the Buddha is saying, that they are linked to each other. So let's say if there is, you can say that, let's say there are 12 photons, like 12 links of dependent origination, and in contrast to those let's say physical phenomena where they are completely random and independent, the phenomena of those mind, the 12 component of that phenomena that the dependent origination consists of, are linked together. So they arise together and cease together. So what does that mean is that if you have let go of one link, all the others that are dependent on that particular link will fall apart immediately. So there is no kind of a time limit or some sort of let's say processing time that we are generally accustomed to tag to those sort of phenomena. Yeah. So this is quite a, what I said is quite a counterintuitive state of our mind, where, and I would probably compare this is to some sort of some sort of a thing that those the flow of those dependently arisen phenomena are of such a nature that any sort of observation, any sort of observation of them with some sort of bias, with some sort of inclination, that start to oscillate them, and that will create millions of iterations of those sort of phenomena that that sort of they become unstable. So in physics or in sort of if you go to some sort of labs in like a CERN or in some sort of very high kind of highly impactful research centers that they are investigating those sort of particles, they have got such a very delicate instrument that any sort of influence that is going to be coming from the, let's say, the environment, they have to perform those sort of experiment in such a very pure environment that any influence, any atom, any molecule that can enter that sort of control environment can completely destabilize their experiment. So I take this mind, the observation of mind and the flow of mind in exactly similar manners. So any sort of our observation, any sort of let's say imagination, any sort of a concept can oscillate, can make those observation and the sort of the flow of phenomena even more unstable. So this is in a circuit theory, or if you go to any lab in somewhere anywhere, there are certain experiment they do. They inject, let's say, a little bit of millivolt or microvolt of current into a system, and that generates a perfect kind of a waveform that that they can control that waveform into various very fine degree in a, let's say, frequency. Yeah. So that sort of things. So what I'm saying is that our mind are kind of the state of the mind has, we have inherited this state of mind which is already in that state of oscillation. It is already kind of bouncing around too much. Yeah. And whenever we and any, so what happens is that we are bombarded with all these sense experiences hitting our awareness from 6 sense doors. And what happens is those input of those signals, say, if we say, maybe signal is a good example to say that, and those 6 inputs hitting our, let's say, our mind and body machine, and any of those inputs are likely to continue this vibration and this oscillation to infinite amount of time if we are not able to check and find the root cause of this oscillation. So this is precisely, this is kind of I am giving them quite a scientific explanation or some sort of analogy of why the links of dependent origination are so hard to put a full stop, let's say. Yeah, the cessation of suffering is a state of extinguishing all this vibration coming to the standstill. Say we are trying to switch off all this machine and extinguish the let's say all this sort of vibration and that sort of excitement and sort of oscillation. So this is the state of the world, and I gave the example from lab in physics and electronics to give that sort of a flavor of how we can compare our mind to be similar to that sort of machines that can oscillate and stay in that sort of unstable and fluctuating state all the time if there is no appropriate measure taken to stabilize them, to stop them from going further and exploding. So it can even go to that sort of extent, and we have seen that in life. I mean, our human life is sustained in such a delicate kind of a way that we tend to take everything so personally, and those sort of things can easily turn from a minor sort of a disagreement into a full-blown war and the destruction of the whole kind of, let's say, country or even the earth can be having that sort of fate, yeah, if we are not careful. So, and this is precisely what is the root of all that sort of phenomena is. It all starts with the mind.